Hello and welcome to Texx Talks. I am Texx, and today I am talking to the frontman of a DIY indie rock band that spearheaded an entire scene in South Africa. Known for their unique style of indie rock and outlandish onstage antics, just as well as they are for their left field name, they burst onto a scene that was more concerned with mainstream rock, ultimately finding a home on MCAR 89 and an audience amongst a growing underground 20-something community. Rooted in strong kwela melodies and a DIY indie punk attitude, they spearheaded an entire new wave of underground bands from Oppikoppi to Osaka, and they have carved out a niche for themselves that few bands can emulate. I am, of course, talking about Desmond and the Tutus' Shane Durrant. Shane, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me. That was a great intro. Wow. I feel amazing about myself right now.
I only speak the truth. But, we were having a chat the other day, and Desmond and the Tutus has been around for 15 years. Crazy to think. But I want to take things back to 2005, to your first rehearsal in Doug's bedroom in Pretoria, because I forget that even though you've been Joburg based for a while, your seminal years were spent in Pretoria. Can you relive that general energy and intention surrounding Desmond and the Tutus when you guys first started out?
Yes, so when we grew up in Pretoria, so Craig and I obviously are brothers, and we grew up with Doug, and we knew each other. We were at school, we were at the same school, but mostly we were at the same church. So like the four of us, well, the three of us were in the church band. And I didn't play any instruments. I was just like there for, I don't know,
vibes. You played the triangle in the band.
yeah. I mean, I like that was actually how I started playing the harmonica, because I was like, how do harmonicas work? And Doug says, well, if you just get a harmonica that's in the key of the song, then you literally cannot mess it up. And so that's how I started playing the harmonica, because I wanted to just be part of the church band. So Craig, Doug, and I were in our church band, like the youth band, and Doug matriculated. I'm a few years older than Doug, but when Doug matriculated, he left and went to Stellenbosch, and he went to go study music in Stellenbosch. And when he came back after, he would come back in the holidays, and then we would in the school holidays we would jam out and relive our glory church band days. and like the end of that year, he actually dropped out of that music course that he was in, and he came back to Pretoria, and he'd kind of, I guess, been exposed to like the music scene in Stellenbosch, and he came back like, guys, we got to start a band. So we were kind of always like into starting a band, but it never really happened. I guess at that, over that time, I was getting into like better music, and so I was like more primed to like I had developed better taste in music, so I'd like kind of more primed to, in a way, like be a part of making better music than maybe I had been previously. And so that December, that must have been 2005. Doug, Craig, and I, we just like December holiday boredom, and we set up in Doug's bedroom. Doug lived in like the outside cottage of his uncle and aunt's place, and we set up like the band in there, and we wrote a bunch of songs together, just like jamming out, like many of these types of bands start. And it was just the three of us. It was just drums, vocals, and guitar. And we were like, this is awesome. But Doug was like, no, I think we need to bring a fourth guy in. And so a week later, Doug invited his sister's boyfriend, who was Nick. And Nick was like a super serious, like muso on the Pretoria like live music scene. He was playing in bands, and so the idea was that he would play the bass guitar or play bass, but he didn't have a bass guitar, so he was playing it. So our first few shows were like Nick playing bass lines on his electric guitar, and that we were just totally fine with that. But yeah, I mean, like, I guess our story like begins like most garage rock bands, you know, like bored suburban youths, like just trying to have a good time. And yeah, like a lot of stuff that I do, like I can't just do it for fun. So I like immediately get into like designing a logo, you know, and stuff like that. So as soon as as soon as it felt like we had something cool, and it didn't take long. Like I was mega into it. I was already like, cool, this is gonna be like the thing that I'll pour everything into, and it became that pretty quickly. And yeah, so it took us like a month or two, and we started like looking for ways to play shows. But because I lived in Joburg, I'd already moved away from Pretoria at this point. So a lot of like our early shows were in Joburg. We sort of claim Pretoria as our hometown, but we sort of started the band like half Joburg, half Pretoria.
You know, in most interviews that I do, I try and steer clear of this question that I'm about to ask you. But all the years that I've known you, I've realized I don't know why you named the band Desmond and the Tutus. I've never asked you. But was there any sort of real significance behind it? Or was it just a sort of joke that you guys maybe thought was funny at the time?
Yeah, I mean, it's like kind of a bit of both, you know. So I mean, in those like early few jam sessions that we had, it was really just about like having a good time and kind of jamming out and broing out with the bros. And I mean, when we started to feel like, I mean, naturally you have to have a conversation like, okay, we've got this awesome band, now we need a name. And we're like, I mean, like, we're just kind of joking around going, you know, the so-and-so and the so-and-so's like formula is kind of a classic time-tested formula for band names. Like we could just use that. And then we got into like the first name and the surnames formula, and we're just like laughing about it. And yeah, we just like, I don't know, we're just like having fun, and we landed on Desmond and the Tutus, and it kind of just rolled off the tongue. So
Yeah,
what's the one that made us laugh the hardest at the time? It like felt like an actual name. And so, yeah, I mean, I think the reason that it stuck is like, even from the beginning, like, you know, the kind of the bands that were popular at that time it was really starting to get like super played out, you know, like the rock band scene back then. It was like mega, it was super like trying to be like American, and
it was very strange, like versions of like Creed and Nickelback,
yeah, exactly.
And like weird stuff going on.
Yeah, it was that. And so like we were very like dead set against just like falling into that SA rock sound and that SA rock scene. And so like it was really important to us that like we kind of, the name, I mean, even though we probably didn't think about it this way, but I think it helped, is that like by calling ourselves Desmond and the Tutus.
No. I'm the Grace. You say your Grace.
Your Grace.
Yes.
Kind of, it made it impossible for us to like kind of ape some like cheesy American rock sound, you know. And that I guess that kind of guided a lot of like the tone of what we put out early on.
Made it super local, super authentic. And I think if you're going to be associated with anybody, you might as well be associated with one of the coolest holy men around. And I remember, I think it was, maybe it was like 2009. You guys got a letter from the Archbishop's office, which was like basically a shout out from Desmond and the Tutus, saying he was proud to be associated with the band, which I think was amazing. And like, but what's going through your mind when you receive an envelope like that? Like before you open it, do you think, oh my God, like we've gotten ourselves into so much trouble? What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, we were so under the radar back then, you know, that like, of course to this day, we'd love to just like get a selfie with the man, but we've never managed to make it happen. But how that came about was we were someone from the BBC contacted us and was like, oh, I'm about to interview the Archbishop, and she'd heard about us somehow, and she just thought it would be like a fun thing to throw into this like mega serious BBC interview. And so she said, would we like to write him a letter and send him like a care package and stuff? So like,
that's so cool.
So we sent him like a bunch of merch and a CD. And,
which t-shirt did you send him? Do you remember what it had in it?
Like back then it might have been the classic Desmond and the Mother Flippin' Tutus.
Oh, love that t-shirt. I still got my red one.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. And so we sent the letter, and we were like being funny and say, hey, if you ever start an indie rock band, you can name it after one of us. But and so we got the letter back from him, and in a way, it's just been, I don't know, it was cool to get. It was just cool to be acknowledged by the guy and just like be on his radar for one fleeting moment,
Mm. So we mentioned, some of the other bands. No names mentioned, actually, some of the other bands, English rock bands who were big on the scene at the time when you guys emerged. And they were sort of on the opposite end of the spectrum to what you were doing. But who are you sharing lineups with back in the early days?
Yeah, I mean, when we started out, like trying to do gigs, we were so like we didn't go to gigs, so we're not part of that rock culture at all, So like Craig had been to watch a few gigs. He watched 340mm a few times at Tings and Times. So we're like, okay, cool. Let's go to Tings and Times and try to get a gig. But actually where we ended up getting our first few shows was at the Blues Room in Sandton. I mean, yeah, you're quite new to Joburg, so you wouldn't remember this, but the Blues Room was like this music venue in a mall that has now been replaced by like a skyscraper.
Oh, wow.
But it's like one of these weird things that happens in South Africa where like a cheesy, shitty venue becomes like the home of live music if in a city, just because there is nothing else. So the Blues Room was doing these like unsigned, or what would you call it, like open mic nights, right, on Wednesdays, and you would just have to get there like early in the afternoon and put your name down, and then you would get a slot. So like that's actually how we started playing live, and that, yeah. So back then we were like on those lineups, the only band that really or like artist that I can remember from those open mic lineups was a rapper called Obita.
Okay.
I don't know if you know Obita, but
no.
Yeah, he was pretty active for a while, like the super like bubbly, like awesome guy, and he played with a live band, so he was cool. I mean, when we started playing like actual shows, so we played a few like open mic nighty type things early on, and when we played at Nile Crocodile in Pretoria, which was also like a classic rock people venue, and we once opened for Fuzzy Gish.
Oh my god, that must have been a mad show.
Yeah, well, it was, but it was also just like kind of odd, because I don't know, it wasn't super packed, like Fuzzy Gish shows usually are, but we were such like pretentious dicks back then, we were like so dead set against becoming like just falling into like the SA rock scene, and so like I remember thinking, I mean, I always just cringe when I think about this, but I remember back then thinking to myself, like at that point Fuzzy Gish had been going for like, I don't know, 6 or 7 years, and I remember thinking back then like, oh my god, imagine being in a band for 7 years. Like if guys, honestly, if we're still going in 7 years, like somebody shoot me in the face, and of course like
15 years
7
later.
years came and went, and yeah, I guess I got a lot of like kind of cringy, pretentious shit that I really regret saying out loud back then. But I'm a lot more mellow now, and I kind of appreciate the journey of all bands, and especially like bands that I find their place in like kind of a local environment, you know, and you like kind of just become the go-to band for one or two cities, and it's an ecosystem that I've grown to love and appreciate, and now I'm no longer a pretentious dick, I hope.
You're the best. What are you talking about? But I mentioned MCAR a few times, and I feel like it's very difficult to talk about your rise, especially in the beginning, without talking about MCAR, because not only did it launch some of the biggest Afrikaans rock bands that are still around today, but I think it was also vital in shaping the English indie and folk scene as well. How do you feel when you think about those early days of gigging and the support from the channel, like that up and coming bands really don't have now?
Yeah, I mean, that's it really takes me back to like a place where there was we like the kind of alternative scene had a platform, and you know, people were like exposed to like the live bands on the scene that are trying to make it. And yeah, it's just amazing what a platform it actually ended up being. I mean, there would be like a band from Stellenbosch, you know, it's like a bunch of 19-year-olds, and they'd get a video onto MCAR and kind of blow up. And that was very true for a lot of like young Afrikaans bands. But like you said, I mean, it helped us a lot as well. And like that was almost like pre-internet in a way. I mean, the internet was around, obviously, but it wasn't like the music discovery tool that it is now. So people were still relying like really heavily on TV and radio to discover bands. And it was just incredible to have like a kind of a home for alternative music on TV like that. So yeah, it was really just... It's really just sad that it couldn't keep going.
Yeah, super sad. But I reckon the pendulum swings, and who knows, maybe one day there'll be a platform like that again in the country. But but I want to talk about your music. So your debut album, Tuck Shop, that you released in 2008, like that for me is still my favorite Tutus album, because I've got some really good like varsity memories tied up with it. But also, I mean, I think to experience those early days of like Kiss You on the Cheek and Peter and those crazy gigs, honestly, I don't think I've ever told you this before, but I think it did. It made me feel like I was a part of a scene for the first time ever. Especially those early gigs that were like super sweaty and mad. But when you think about Tuck Shop specifically, which song still resonates with you now for whatever reason?
Yeah, I mean, I probably the ones that you've mentioned, Peter and Kiss You on the Cheek, are the ones that have kind of gone the distance for us in terms of like we still play them live occasionally. But yeah, it is kind of amazing how I know what you're saying. It's like that time in my life. You do feel like you're witnessing the birth of something really interesting and important and you know, kind of new and fresh. So and it's something like I don't know that like it's happened in rock music since then. You know, we've had like bands come out, but like definitely in English rock in South Africa, like that definitely is like a blip on the chart in terms of like it felt like it for a few years it felt like we're part of like a movement, or like you say, a scene, you know, and it felt cool. And there was like it's almost like like I said earlier, it's like we were really dead set against like falling into SA rock vibes. So like even when Oppikoppi booked us for the first time, I was like, oh, guys, really, are we going to do this?
Are we going to go trek into the dust?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, again, I was really like, I really had some opinions back then, but but I was like, oh, geez, really, guys, Oppi, like this is the band we're going to be. Of course, I mean, Oppikoppi is now like very dear to us, but you know, I think we were all kind of just like really wanted to. In a lot of ways, we were like seeing what was happening around the world. It's like rock was changing around the world, like, and we were really inspired by bands like the Strokes, and the Strokes really like led that movement away from like Limp Bizkit and Papa Roach to like kind of, you know, rock music that, you know, is better than that, than Limp Bizkit. So like, and we were kind of really, you know, inspired in a lot of ways by like, oh, there's like kind of a new rock music sound that's coming out. It's like kind of fun and like dancier, and that felt like a movement. And in a way, like it felt cool to have our own little movement happening back here. And so, yeah, I think about that time very fondly. And I love like having conversations with people that were around back then, because everyone just has these like mental moments. Like, I mean, we were just like, there were a couple other guys, but we're just like local bands touring the country. But it's just awesome to hear like what a big deal it was for like Desmond to roll into town. And like
kids today
it was
will
like
never
hysteria, you know. It's just like,
how long do you think Beatlemania will last?
As long as you all keep coming.
and that's just like the kind of thing that happens. Just like those, like that's the birth of a scene in a way. And yeah, it's just I count myself very blessed to have been a part of that.
I mean, not only were you spearheading scenes here in South Africa, but then halfway across the world in Japan, you know, your music is being released and you're going to play these really cool venues. And Shane, like still to this day, that absolutely blows my mind. And I mean, just in terms of, I mean, Japan is always, it's somewhere that I've always wanted to go. I haven't had the opportunity to yet, but hopefully after this COVID madness is over, I can. But tell me about your first tour. Like where were you playing? Like what kind of outfits were you wearing? Like was the language barrier an issue? I want to know everything about where you went in Japan.
Yeah, so I mean, the connection to Japan happened, actually just happened on MySpace, you know, so like...
MySpace?
Yeah, so I mean, in the early day, like we kind of...
Of course it's MySpace, because I mean, it was back in the day when social media was like in its infancy, so...
Yeah, I mean, like MySpace, this was before Facebook was even like remotely a thing. And do you know Daryl Tor?
Yes, very well.
So at a gig once, like at that point, Daryl was playing with Harris Tweed. Yeah. What did they become again?
Harris Tweed became Dear Reader.
Dear Reader, yeah.
And for people listening who don't know who Daryl Tor is, he is a Grammy Award-winning engineer and an OG on the music scene.
Yeah, so I mean, we played with Harris Tweed at the Bohemian, and he came to me afterwards and was like, dude, have you guys got a MySpace? I was like, what's that? He's like, bro, you got to get a MySpace. So like that, I was like, cool. Daryl says get a MySpace.
We got to get a
I'm
MySpace.
about to find out what a MySpace is, and I'm about to get one. And so I did that. And yeah, that was also just like that bit of internet music discovery, like MP3 blog world that was kind of just starting to like happen back then. It was really, I mean, the internet now for music is a really difficult thing to navigate, but back then it was like really controlled by fans. And so it was like really new to be able to like, for a fan to be able to like send you a message and for you to be able to respond, and so that was really, really fresh. So like engaging with people on MySpace became like a big part of, I guess. I mean, you talk about that little scene that we were involved in, and a lot of that was like MySpace was really important to that, especially like in terms of like kids in Cape Town finding out about us. That all happened online before anywhere else, right? So anyway, like yeah, MySpace. We got quite a lot of good stuff out of MySpace. A lot of connections that we made that have lasted the longest all come from like MySpace
That's
DMs,
amazing.
and so that Japanese connection to Flake Records happened on MySpace. And in fact, back then, like two Japanese labels like reached out to us, one in Tokyo and one in Osaka, and we ended up first releasing something with the Tokyo label, and then when it came down, like just a 7-inch vinyl with 2 songs on, and then when it came time to release the album, they were like, we can't really afford to release a whole album, blah blah blah. So I like went back to the other guy. And I was like, something fell through with the people that we chose over you. So like, hey, we're back on the scene. And so, and the rest is kind of history. I mean, he released our album, and like Japanese people just love doing like weird stuff. Like they released a vinyl with a bunch of remixes on, and then they released like a special edition album with a bunch of like demos and other random stuff on. And yeah, I mean, like going to Japan is just like a total culture shock. Like the language barrier is super real. Nobody speaks English really. So we had a translator who also didn't totally speak English, but he spoke more English than everybody else. And yeah, so we like, I mean, like one thing that really just blew my mind is and made me really question like what actually is going on here, because we arrive in. So bear in mind, like we didn't have iTunes or what do you call it, Spotify or any of that stuff back then. So you have no idea like just how many people are listening to your music, because people are still buying CDs and like swapping and trading MP3s. So like it's really hard to gauge just how popular you are in another country.
But your music had been released there because you done the deals before you came to tour.
Exactly.
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
So I mean, so when we get there to play do the first tour, and we were just like walking around a department store one time, and these 2 like young Japanese girls come up to us. Like bear in mind, we're in the middle of Tokyo. It's a massive, massive city. That's actually an understatement. It is just mind blowing how big and overwhelming this city is. We're in a department store, like I don't know, like an Edgar's-y type thing, and we're looking at jackets, and these 2 girls come up to us. They are freaking out, like proper Japanese fangirl style, like the way you see in the movies. They take out their phones and they show us the Tuck Shop album cover on their phone, and we were just at this point we were just like, what actually have we just walked into right now? And so that was just like, that stands out as just a moment where I went like, wow, what's going on down here? So yeah, we played incredible shows. It was just like an incredible experience just watching like how the Japanese people like engage with artists and music, and like how the whole live music culture there is totally different. The language barrier thing was weird because like during the show people will sing along, so like people can sing along, like I guess they just memorize the songs.
That's amazing.
And then after the show, like everyone wants to come and talk to you or like meet you and get your signature and stuff, but like nobody speaks English. But you're like, hang on, you guys were just shouting like Peter a few minutes ago. Yeah, it's just one of those beautiful like things that happened, and we've stayed in touch with Flake Records all these years, and it's led to like really great stuff. I mean, we managed to get to pass on back in the day when I tried to start a record label. I signed Short Straw for their first album, and like we managed to get that released in Japan as well, and they've gone to Japan a bunch of times since then too. So it's become almost like this really cool little like informal like MySpace infused cultural exchange program. You know, a bunch of the guys came out to South Africa a few years ago, and it's just like these two tiny little indie scenes, one here and one in Japan, like kind of have found each other, and it's been really special.
Yeah, I remember that one. I'm gonna forget the name of the band, but it was an instrumental band, and they came down and they played at Oppikoppi. It's one of the most incredible things I've ever seen. Damn it, what was the name of that band?
Yeah, Sawagi.
Yes, that's it. Oh, they were incredible.
They're so great.
But that's so nice that you've managed to pass the torch, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was felt like a no-brainer to try and get other people to experience what we experienced, because it was just like so totally different to the live scene here. Like here, like live watching bands and that whole thing is really tied into like partying and drinking and that whole thing, which is fine. I mean, that makes it super fun, but it's so different there. You know, the venues are a lot smaller. The bar in the venue is like almost non-existent. The shows start a lot earlier, so it's like way more like centered around like just fans watching music. So it's just like culturally it's just like a total different rhythm to hear.
You know, there was a period of years, probably like over 2008 to like 2012, where like you were the it band, and like a lineup wasn't complete unless you guys were on it. And I think that it's a testament to like this very cool, very entertaining show that you've crafted over the years. Because you've got your own very unique, special brand of way that you perform. And was it something that you crafted over many shows, or is it something that it's just like when you're on stage, you become a completely different animal?
Yeah, I mean, I think we got, as we started to like kind of understand what kind of gigs we were gonna do and what kind of people we were performing for. Like you kind of slowly start to figure out like what you need to do. Like when you start out, you got like an idea of what you need to look like and what you want to do. And like even early on, I was like, okay, my vibe is gonna be like classic indie frontman vibe with like skinny jeans, and I'm gonna like jump around and go crazy, and like we're just gonna vibe it out like that. And as time went on, like my dance moves have become like a bit more understated, but like I still try to. Yeah, I guess like I don't know. It's hard to say, but it's like playing live. Like what's weird for me, right, is I don't consider myself a musician really. Like I said, I don't play any instruments. And a lot of people would agree with me when I say like I don't really even sing. so like I've like kind of stumbled into this thing of being in a band and playing live, and like I've had this amazing opportunity to be a part of creating music with very talented musicians. And like what I bring to the table is like, I guess is kind of what I do live, right? Is like that is the thing that I've managed to become, I think, quite good at. And yeah, so like when people say like, do I play any instruments, then I'd always, my go-to line now is like, my personality is my instrument.
I love that. But also don't sell yourself short, because I feel like the reason that Desmond and the Tutus is so successful is because each of you brings something so unique to the table, and it's all of those elements together that make you guys incredibly entertaining to watch, but even more so to listen to.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that means a lot. I mean, it's what's just so weird about this journey we've been on, right? Is like I said in the beginning, I was like, if we ever make it to like, if we're still in this band in 5 years' time, like somebody kill me. And it's just like we just started. It went from like goofing off over the weekends to being something that we really, really love, and we've gotten better at it. And also, I mean, like just when you start performing in front of big crowds, that feeling really, is intoxicating. So that becomes like a whole other driving force in your life. But yeah, like obviously our brand, our music, but also our like style of live performance is not, it's not suitable for every type of event. So often, people would hear like Lazy Bones on the radio, and then we'll get gigged. We get booked to like play at some corporate or something like that off the back of Lazy Bones and teenagers, and people think they're getting some kind of light-hearted pop rock
And then you
band,
guys show up.
and we show up, and it's like totally not that experience, and that's hard for us to like, because I know what the person that booked us is thinking. They're like, wow, I'm really not getting what I thought I was getting. And so, and that makes that, like, in the beginning used to make me really like insecure, so you like, and then Doug and I like developed this concept of like, we need, if you walk into a bad gig and you can see like it's not going to be great, like we need to win. Like the audience cannot win. We need to win.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
And so armed with that kind of theory, it really unlocks like this thing inside me, which is like, I'm not, these people here that work at FNB or whatever, like they are not going to win today. I'm going to win. And so that has really like unlocked some wild moments at corporate, events. But that's also just like in general. And Doug was like described this like aspect of when we live, what I do is I hold the audience in contempt. Like it's like I'm not trying to like play to what they expect from us in a way, it's like, and so there's like this, I like there to be tension in the air, and I like for people like, they mustn't be like easy, because it's not easy for me. So it must be easy for the audience always, and that kind of tension and that feeling of like, we're in like war with the audience, and like we need to win. And the way we win is by like convincing them that this has been fun. And often that means is like, I just really got to push the limit of what fun is. So, yeah, like some corporates have just gotten like totally, like we played this corporate we don't do a lot of corporates, and this story will, I guess, explain why. But it's, this is like a business. It was for some bank, and it was some like business conference thing at the Santon Convention Center. And it was like us on the lineup, and Mikasa. Of course, Mikasa are like, these guys are the darlings of that kind of world.
They were bred for corporate.
Oh yeah, I mean, they are just like, and people love it. And here comes us, and we've got a couple crowd pleasers, but a lot of it's just like kind of hectic, punky rock music. And so, yeah, I did a lot of stuff that day that really like cemented this us versus them. Like I went down to I moved into the audience and went down to like the catering table and stole 2 massive platters of food and like ran away, and then emerged later and like went to the opposite side of the stage and sat on a chair and gave like a 5-minute TED talk about working in a corporate. And then we played some songs in between, and I don't know. Yeah, it's I've had a lot of moments like that where like, and I'll just like things will just spiral a little bit, and we kind of regroup at the end. And as long as Doug looks at me and goes like, "You won," then I'm happy.
Well, on the subject of winning, I don't know if you know this, but your bio on Facebook still reads 3-time award-losing band, which is hysterical. But I reckon you have to change that, Shane, because you guys are summer winners for Best Rock Album now. And, I know people say, oh my God, like, it's so nice to be nominated. But wow, it's even better to win. I'm sure you would agree. And I think apart from your and Doug's acceptance speech, which is like burned into my mind literally for eternity. And also, I think you guys trended on Twitter for like 3 days afterwards.
That was the best thing to come out of it. It's
pretty much.
Yeah.
But how does it really feel to be recognized by your peers on a national scale like that for your work after you've been, grinding away for a while?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a big moment for us, right? Like we'd been nominated for our previous album, and that we lost 3 times that night. Hence the Twitter bio. So it's still true. We have still lost a minimum of 3 awards that we've been nominated for.
Oh, I see. You're going on the ratio. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. One does, like you said, one does say like when with the first time around when we lost, it's like then you like the narrative is who cares about awards, blah blah blah. But when you win, like it really still does something really special for your soul, and you do start to appreciate like what it actually means, and meant a lot to us, because we really did feel that Enjoy Yourself was like our best. It was like our kind of our like peak Desmond, In a lot of ways, it was 100% us, and it was like we kind of felt like we'd perfected what Desmond and the Tutus is in an album. It's like the moments of like kind of tender like love songs, and their moments of just like weird rock punky like moments, and then there's like everything in between, and kind of like the approach when we made that album, our thing was going to be like, let's just do whatever we want to do, and like we went with that as the theme was like no idea is a bad idea type of thing, and
DIY.
So and so like, yeah, I mean, when we won, it did feel like cool. I mean, it was great to be recognized, because I mean, I know a lot of the judges are like proper music people, and the proper music people world, like they didn't warm up to us immediately when we came out, So I appreciate that was also kind of important for us, is that it told me that, hey, all these rock guys and these music guys that like didn't get it when you came out, and didn't get like didn't get like indie rock as a genre for like the first 10 years of indie rock, kind of they finally got it, and that also was kind of important to me. And so yeah, I mean, as much as we like to say like the cop out is when you lose, it's just an award, who cares, but I guess that is true, because who does care? But like we cared for a while, and yeah, it was good.
Tell me, how did you celebrate that night?
Yeah, man. How did we celebrate? It was just Doug and I, because the other two guys couldn't make it. And well, you've been to the Samas, you know, like kind of how weird it is. It's like there's the Sama after party that nobody really goes to. And I think it was just Doug and I, like wandering around Durban, like missioning around, and just hoping people like remember that we won a Sama that night.
But let's talk about your latest album, Desmond, which is also your first album in a long while, because Enjoy Yourself came out, I want to say like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But Desmond's been ready. It's been ready to go since like July. So what was the holdup? Like, was it a suspense building tactic, or was it just Corona?
Yeah, I mean, it was mostly just Corona. Like the album actually, like we'd basically finished it about this time last year, and we were thinking to ourselves, like, in the new year, well, we'll spend January like mastering it, and then like it'll be ready to go by March, let's say. And yeah, like there were some delays. Like we decided to write a few more songs, and so that delayed us a little bit. And then yeah, like COVID kind of really just like when gigs started, when kind of stopped dead, just put us all in like a really weird place, and we weren't really like, it wouldn't feel right to just like put out an album if we couldn't play shows around it. I mean, we're not playing much now, but you know, like we really exist because we are able to do shows, and like there's no way the three of us would be still making music together if we weren't getting like, you know, 50 opportunities to play songs live a year. And so we need to, so that whole like kind of thing really threw us, because like without shows, like Desmond isn't really like something we want to do if all we're going to do is record music. Like our whole career kind of just revolves around us playing gigs. And so it just kind of threw us to go like, okay, well, there's no gigs. What does that mean for us as a band? Like, do we still even exist? And so that was kind of just a weird thing for us to go through. But at the end of it, we felt like, well, we should just put it out, which we've now started doing. And but yeah, it's like the 5-year delay between albums is also notable. I don't know why it takes us this long to make albums. Like this is probably the longest gap. I think the thing is, it's like when we've got an album, like when Enjoy Yourself came out, like the strength of those songs enabled us to just play and play and play and get booked and booked and booked, and so we were just kind of riding that, you know. It was like we didn't feel like, I mean, also like in our world, like whether we release an album every year or every 5 years, it's not like we've got like 100,000 people waiting to buy the vinyl of our album. So, you know, we really like fall into a place where like as long as we like servicing our few thousand fans and there's enough for them to like get into, then we are kind of more or less happy.
So, you know, lockdown was and still is very hard for a lot of South Africans and people around the world. But how are you returning to a sort of degree of normalcy at all after this weird period of like loss of connection and freedom with lockdown?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, in a lot of ways, I feel like life is, especially for rock bands, you know, like, it feels like things have changed irreversibly in a lot of ways for us. You know, like we there's just like less shows. A lot of venues over December are just not opening, so like we can't even do that classic thing of like touring around the
And
coast.
you guys love your summer tour.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. It's still something we're kind of grappling with, to be honest. It's like, I mean, if Desmond can't play live like every, I don't know, a couple times a month, do we even really exist? And I don't know that we do, you know, like we revolve around like that of playing live. And of course, like income aside, that is how we generate an income from the band. But aside from that, that is what we love doing. And we record and make music just to service that aspect of what we do. So if we can't do that, I'm not sure that we do really exist anymore. But I mean, we've just gone to all this effort of making an album, so let's hope we can still play a few more shows.
I mean, you guys played your first show at Halloween in Pretoria. How did that go?
Yeah, it was great. Like in a lot of ways, it felt like back to normal. And we love a Halloween party.
Oh yeah, who did you guys dress up as this year, by the way?
We actually just didn't dress up.
No.
I know. It's we just, I don't know why. We just like,
You went as yourselves because, well, 2020.
yeah, we just went as like three dudes going through their own existential crises. And that, like, nobody asked us, but that is way more terrifying than anything we could have dressed up as.
My favorite look of yours was the Polytones, when the four of you dressed up as the Polytones. That I will never not share that every Halloween. Texx in the City always shares that because I just thought it was so well thought out. You guys even had a KFC snack box.
Oh man, yeah, it was so funny. We always go. We used to. I mean, this year aside, like Craig and I put in so much effort into these outfits, you know. So that night we, we went and bought like matching black button-up shirts, and I had this really tiny, like tight black shirt, and then we did the eye makeup and the KFC bucket. I was like, I remember going into a KFC going, I need a bucket, but I only want to buy one piece of chicken, but please can I have a bucket? And she was like, and this poor woman just was like, no, if you buy one piece, you get it in like a little paper bag. And I was like, please, I will pay money for the bucket, but I don't need a whole bucket of chicken. She just was like, no, you buy a bucket of chicken, you get a bucket. Eventually, they managed to dig out like a bucket from I don't know, somewhere, but it was like a used bucket. And so we roll onto stage, and I had like one piece of chicken, like this cold chicken leg. And the intro of the first song is like the guys are like starting this intro, and it's vibey, and I'm like, cool, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to walk onto stage with this KFC bucket, and I'm going to eat this chicken leg before we start singing. And I don't know, it just felt like it took me longer than ever in my life to eat a chicken leg I don't know, in front of like 400 kids. Here's me like choking down a KFC chicken leg. And I just remember looking back at them guys, and I'm like hacking this thing down. And Doug's like, are we going to start this show? And I'm like, I've got a throat full of chicken, but let me just deal with one thing at a time. But what was really great that night is the Polytones tweeting at us going, wow, I heard Desmond and the Tutus are looking stylish tonight. So good sports.
Oh my God, I love that so much. But after 15 years in the game, and then the long hiatus, as we spoke about, like in between albums, what is it that you've brought to this album, to Desmond, that you haven't before? And like, what are fans who've been taking this journey with you, fans like me, since like day one, since Tuck Shop, like what are they in for?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I guess most notably is it's the first album that we've, or the first music that we've made without Nick Denny on the bass guitar. So that's kind of one immediate difference. Even though a lot of Enjoy Yourself, like Craig, Craig. You won't know this by looking at the guy, but he runs a lot of what we do, and of course he manages the band. But like musically, you know, around the Enjoy Yourself, like he really developed like a kind of like he developed a lot of the sound for like what became Enjoy Yourself, and includes like Pretoria Girls and Teenagers, like two songs that have become maybe two of our biggest songs. Like these come from Craig, our drummer, like writing, like coming up with ideas for songs, and us going like, yeah, those are Craig, these are really great. And so like it kind of, I guess, started back then, but yeah, like not having Nick is kind of a game changer, because it's like changed how we workshop songs. In the past, I suppose we would like classic band vibe, like jam it out till it's right, whereas like a lot of the stuff is like more like you don't really jam it out. It's like kind of more created. It's more created in the recording process. And you kind of figure it out that way, rather than like the old school way, where like a band would write a song and practice it, and then get into studio with this perfect song. Like a lot of the stuff is kind of like really, you kind of start to realize the songs in studio. Yeah, like subject matter wise, it's kind of like a lot of like the same kind of Desmond-y themes. Like there's a mix of like the tongue-in-cheek comments on society that I've always loved doing, and then there are also like light-hearted love song moments, and sprinkle in like a dose of good old punk rock existentialism, and that's kind of a Desmond album for you.
I really like the first single, Hard Work, because it's that quintessential Desmond sound, but then you tackle like the ups and downs of social media, which I find funny because like I feel like you guys are incredible at social media, and I suppose the sort of comment at large is, that it's hard work to keep up your profiles, fine, but like also appearances. Like, do you feel that way, like after being at this for so long?
Yeah, I mean, like the social media thing. What's so weird about it is like, when we started out, like I said, we got into MySpace like thanks to Daryl Tor. I don't know, a week after MySpace had been launched or something. So like back then, like early on, around like our first album, people really like kind of looked at Desmond as like, here's a band that's using the internet to reach and connect with their fans, right? And that back then was still kind of a new concept. And over the last few years, like we've started feeling a bit like they're like kind of a new generation of artists and like internet people in general are like using the internet way, way, way better. But it's really like it's all consuming, like it starts to define your career. Like your Instagram account is your career. And like that's something we've not kept up with, so we haven't been able to transition from rock band to influencer marketing experts.
I don't know.
And
You say that, but then the Desmond that you launched online in conjunction with the album release is it's probably your best work to date. And I own a Desmond and the Mother Flippin' Tutus t-shirt, and I thought that was like the pinnacle. but on Desmond, like, you guys offered personalized shout out videos, and then I can't believe that you sold out of your limited edition used car seats. Like, that was crazy. And then another one of the offerings is that one of the band members reads you a bedtime story via Zoom, which was amazing. But my favorite one was the meanie pants offering, where, like, for an entire day, the band members will, like, WhatsApp you insults and, like, voice notes and unexpected times. I'm taking my life into my own hands here, but I need an example of one of those insults on the record. I need to know what you were sending to people.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, not surprisingly, like, nobody actually ordered a meanie pants package. Like the popular ones were, like, kind of the more normal ones, like
used car seat, obviously.
Yeah, and I sold a few locks of my hair, which I guess
was that an offering?
Fine. Yeah, you could buy a lock. You could buy a lock of anybody's hair. It's so funny. It's like Doug
doesn't have any hair though.
I know, and so we were planning on just selling all Doug's hair when he cut it off, but. It's funny, like, when the order comes in, because, like, we manage the online store ourselves. It's like we don't have to outsource that because we're not, like, dealing with, Odd Future merch drops, like, where they sell 1 million t-shirts in the day it goes live. It's like, it's kind of fun for us to just, like, package this shit and send it out. So, like, an order comes in and it's like, okay, for the lock of hair, I choose Shane. And it's like I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that, but I guess it's funny. I don't know.
How did you deliver the lock of hair to them? Did you put it in a test tube, or did you wrap it up?
Yeah, I did. I put it in a glass test tube. Like, I put it in a glass test tube, and then I made like I took an A4 piece of paper and made like a certificate of authenticity. And we like drew a little diagram of my face with an arrow to like where the cut of hair, like if you're in a butchery, it tells you like where the
cut
like,
of meters,
fillet comes from. Yeah, I did one of those, but for hair. So it's like, okay, your lock of tutu hair came from like the front bang of Shane's lips, whatever.
Oh my God. Well, Shane, I just wanted to say thank you very much for joining me today on Texx Talks. I have never wanted large-scale shows to return more because I'm craving a tutu's jaw so badly. So hopefully, I can catch you guys at one soon.
Hard work. You look like hard work. Every little thing about you hard work. And tell me, are you worth the hard work? Hard work. That pretty face tells me you're hard work. You're hell on earth, babe, you're hard work. And I'm coming with the hard work. You Instagram models, you're all the same. If only you could filter your personality, what a shame. Are you gonna look up at any point today? There it goes, another meal time up in flames. Hard work, you look like hard work. Every little thing about you hard work. Tell me, are you worth the hard the deal? You got me questioning if any of this is actually real. Ain't you social justice keyboard warriors? I'm scared. Just how much are you reading into what I just said? Hard work. You look like hard work. Every little thing about you hard work. Tell me, are you worth the hard work? Oh, you corporate power suit types, you're just too much. The legal mumbo jumbo, I can't keep up. You folksy singer-songwriters, you're all alike. I'm sorry, but I can't come to another open mic. Hard work. You look like hard work. Every little thing about you hard work. Tell me, are you worth the hard work? Hard work. That pretty face tells me you're hard work. You're hell on earth, babe, you're hard work. And I'm coming with the hard work.
Shout out to Shane Durrant for joining us in studio. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Texx Talks. Be sure to check out textalks.com for more episodes. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Castbox, or listen to Texx Talks on all good streaming platforms. Also, a huge shout out to Tom's, the only music store, for being the most incredible technical supplier. From myself, Texx, our producers Jonathan Ings and Matthew Lewitz, and our research assistant Al Clapper. Catch you on the flip side.